So Breaking Ice is mostly entirely about the North and people that kind of come up here. There's a big revolving door in a community that is also permanent, and you run into so many different characters. So I think the purpose of this podcast is to kind of get to know the people that spend their time in the North. It's such a unique place, and yeah, there's so many interesting people that come through here, and hearing from them all is worthwhile.
Right on. Yeah, so my name's Tyson Doonan. I was actually born in the Yukon Territory. I was raised in central Alberta for the entirety of my life. I'm an aircraft mechanic by trade, and I've been all over North America, chasing helicopters, airplanes, you name it. I started up here about 2 years ago, and it was an adventure. When I saw the job ad, I was like, oh, cool, Arctic living, remote. Like, what could go wrong? Let's do it. And I moved up here, and I've had a blast. It's been such a good trip, and I've met some friends that I'm going to keep for the rest of my life. I've made some amazing memories. I've had some super cool trips. It's been super good. Yeah.
Can you orient yourself in the community just for listeners? Like, you live in Norman Wells, and what's your job here and all that?
Yeah, so I live in Calgary, Alberta, but I rotate up to Norman Wells, Northwest Territory. I'm here for a month at a time, and then I'm back home or wherever for a month at a time. I'm in it. I work 6 days a week for North-Wright Airways, and yeah, we have about 20 aircraft that we look after. We have 3 to 4 skeds or 3 to 4 aircraft leaving daily in the summertime. In the wintertime, it's a little bit different, but it's just as busy. And it's been so fun, and like the remoteness of it definitely leans into the adventure or frontier feel of it sometimes. Like, it's not uncommon for 30-40% of your colleagues to roll in on snowmobiles, which is awesome. It's so cool.
What are some big differences that you've noticed in terms of kind of differences in terms of working in this industry up north and down south?
Oh, okay. So some of the differences are definitely in the fact that the aircraft are operated on ice. They're operated on lakes. They're flying their boats, their skis, or their toboggans. They're operating in places that normal aircraft or aircraft that are operating in like more normal environments wouldn't even dream of going to. And the way in which we operate them is different too. Like, we have machines that sit outside all year, -40, +28, and we expect them to operate. We maintain them to operate. And it's a big part of making sure that we can get groceries or mail or fuel in and out of this community.
Yeah, it's such a extreme place.
Yeah, it is. It's like I joke with my wife all the time that this is the edge, this is the frontier, because there's not a whole heck of a lot more remote working for us up here.
And can you what are some operational differences in terms of like stuff that North-Wright has to think about being so remote compared to, other ops down south? Like, obviously, like the things I'm thinking about that I'd like to hear kind of your vantage point on are like, stocking parts and things like that.
Oh yeah. So like everything that we have, everything that we don't have is immediately 3 days away. There's no, oh yeah, we can get it in town today. We do have some relationships with some of the air operators in Yellowknife that really help us out, and we scratch their back in turn. But if we need a part and it's in Wichita, Kansas, it's a day and a half from Wichita to Calgary to Yellowknife to Norman Wells. That aircraft's sitting for 3 days. So if we don't have a good parts inventory, we have a backlog of aircraft that are sitting, waiting on parts that normal operators or operators operating closer to larger centers don't have that struggle with.
Yeah, it's a really big difference. So how does the team manage that? Like, how do you guys work around that? Is there kind of, how does that manifest in terms of workflow or maintenance or prescribed maintenance and things like that?
So the blessing in that is that the team we have up here is super well versed in the aircraft that we have, the operational needs and the mechanical needs of the machine. So they have, it's not anyone's first rodeo when it comes to working on these. It's very much, oh, we knew that this was going to happen. We've seen this in the past. We have parts on order, or we have parts in stock. So we do a lot of progressive maintenance, and we do a lot of preventative maintenance before stuff even comes time to do for like a timed out check or like a phase. and we'll have the parts pre-ordered for it, so that way when it comes down, we can hit it hard and we can hit it fast to make sure that we can meet the operational demands of the company and not have the aircraft down for too long.
What from your vantage point as like a maintenance engineer and someone physically working on these planes, I feel like there's like a perception in the community of like, oh, like, you know, there's a snag or something like that. Like there's a vantage point from which customers see things, and there's a vantage point from which you see things. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you feel like it's helpful to know for customers and when those things do come up, and, you know, operating these planes at -40, these things come up.
Well, I mean, like we would, like North-Wright and myself included, would never put people on a plane that's not safe. So if there's ever a snag or if there was something to come up and we have to take, and the customer takes a delay, if it's maintenance related or if it's crew staffing related. But if it's maintenance related, it's because the aircraft isn't 100%, and we will make sure that it's safe and 100% before we put anyone on board. So, and lots of times it's as simple as changing out a very quick part, doing a couple function tests, and then returning it to service.
Yeah, basically the desire isn't like, oh, it might be frustrating that you're late, but
safe.
It's better to make it there than
safe
than
is,
to rush.
Safe is best.
Safe is best. Yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely like prescribe myself to that, and I make sure that my younger colleagues and the apprentices understand that I would never, all time constraints aside, if it's not safe, it's not going. And you have to make that call, and that's a call that falls upon aircraft maintenance engineers all the time. But you just have to be steadfast in that you're not pushing a machine out that's not safe. It's literally not worth it.
Can you tell me a little bit about becoming an aircraft maintenance engineer and like the phases that you go through and the different parts of that process that we have up here? Like we have apprentices and we have engineers, and I don't know, tell me about the dynamics and the different responsibilities and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So the the fairly standard progression is you go to high school, you get a high school diploma, and then from there you have the option to go to a direct aircraft maintenance school, which is 2 years long, and then you have a 2 to 3 year apprenticeship. Or you can take there's a program in Manitoba, I believe, that one of my colleagues has taken, and you go for 6 months, then you go and work for 6 months, and you do that over the course of 4 years, and then you're more likely, or you're more on track. It's more standardized, like a Red Seal trade would be. And then there's also a program in place where you can challenge all of the exams and work through it entirely without going to school. That one's not as common, but there are some people up here that have done that process. And
it might just be the case that wherever you are in the world, that is just the way that makes sense, and it doesn't mean that you're less capable or whatnot.
No, absolutely not. So like it just comes down to, once you get your license, you're at the same bar as everyone else.
Yeah.
For licensed aircraft maintenance engineers.
Yeah, it's so much more important about the threshold than the process.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense. So what are the duty differences? Like if someone is thinking about coming to work up here as an apprentice or engineer, like this might be obvious for people who are already in the industry, but tell me about kind of what to expect.
Oh yeah. So as an apprentice, when you get hired on, you're sweeping the floor, you're making sure the aircrafts are clean. We'll start you off with doing some fairly simple visual inspections, looking for corrosion, cracks, if anything's like clearly damaged when we take the cowlings off. And then
what's cowlings?
Oh, cowlings. That's the containment around the engines. So it's to keep aerodynamic profile of the aircraft and keep all of the debris and dirt and other stuff off of the engines. And it's also good to duct cooled air around it because the engines are extraordinarily hot.
Okay, so expecting for visual damage and then what, you're phased into maintenance. Is this like right out of school that you're imagining? Yeah,
so like right out of school, if you were to get hired on right out of school, you fly up to Norman Wells, they put you in the camp, you're living in a 10-man bunkhouse with 9 other colleagues, and they might not all be maintenance engineers. There'll be junior pilots, sometimes there'll be office staff. It's a mixed bag.
It's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's super good. So like you come on to North-Wright and you're like immediately with a group of people that are all there for the same thing. They're all there to get a start in aviation.
Nice.
So yeah, you would come on. We'd start you off with some basic tasks, and then it's just a progression. The people that are overseeing the maintenance, that are signing it off, the aircraft maintenance engineers, they're not going to give you more than you can take. And I with my experience, they would never ask you to do something that they didn't think that you could handle. They're not going to set you up to fail. So like we have some apprentices now that are in their second year, and like they're changing out major engine components, and it's all being overseen, but the only way to learn is to do. You can only watch someone do it so many times before you actually have to get the feel for, like what is the amount of free play allowed in that? How loose is too loose? There's a learning curve to it, but at the same point, you're advancing on this path, and with every advancement, it's going to get harder. But we would never string you along. We would never give you something that we didn't think you could handle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for an engineer, how's that difference? I know that if your time here, you've seen folks go from apprentice to engineer, and it'd be really interesting to kind of hear about the mentality shift there.
Oh yeah. So like as an apprentice, you're not signing out the aircraft. You're not putting your name to it saying that it's safe.
So just to clarify, apprentices will do work on aircraft, but they're not cleared to give it an okay. So an
Yes.
engineer would come along and say, "Hey, I've inspected this work, and I take responsibility for the fact that this is good to go."
That's exactly it. So an aircraft that's being signed out by an organization like North-Wright, they have someone that has Aircraft Certifying Authority, or ACA, and that has been given to you by the company, and the company's given you enough training that says that the company feels comfortable with you signing out their aircraft under their maintenance license.
So once you have an ACA for Twin Otters, do you just have an ACA for all Twin Otters, or is it for these two Twin Otters?
It's for these two Twin Otters.
Gotcha.
And it's only for North-Wright's Twin Otters.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's such a, it's a weird balance. This profession is like a weird balance between needing to like have like a very standard level of competency across the board in Canada, but then it also is so specific to the company you're working for. So it's this weird blend between like, I don't know, like Transport Canada. Is it Transport Canada?
Yeah, it's Transport
Like
Canada.
authority, like, being an engineer, but then it's like North-Wright's being like, yeah, but this plane needs to be treated this way.
Yeah, so the license so all of the aircraft that we operate at North-Wright are called M1 aircraft. They're under 12,500 pounds, or they have been specified by Transport Canada that they are under 12,000, or that they are M1 aircraft. So my license is good for all M1 aircraft, but then to sign it out commercially through an AMO or a aircraft maintenance organization like North-Wright, you then need certifying authority by the company. And it does get very complex because we have certifying authority, and we could have certifying authority for other aircraft that aren't operated by North-Wright that still fall under our maintenance that we're able to sign out. It does get very, very confusing.
So like hypothetically, if North-Wright bought a third Twin Otter, could you, with signing authority on North-Wright's Twin Otters, they would just be like, yeah, you can work on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if North-Wright was starting to look after, say, another airline popped up here, we could call it like Just Right Airlines. They could, and they wanted North-Wright to maintain it. If it was the same type of aircraft under North-Wright's AMO, you'd be able to sign that aircraft out with your current certifying authority.
Okay, so as an engineer, you need to get certifying authority over the Porter, over the Twin Otters, over the 1900s, over the Courier. No, sorry, not the Courier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, the Courier,
Yeah.
or the Cessnas is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And the Caravan.
Yeah. So we have our Cessna singles, the Caravan, the Porter, the Twin Otter, the 1900s, and the Courier.
What's your favorite one to work on?
Oh, the Porter.
Why the Porter?
The Porter's so cool.
Don't you feel like it gets too much attention?
No, it doesn't get nearly enough attention. If I could replace every single airplane in our fleet with just Porters.
That's just a selfish thing. That has no bearing on functionality.
Absolutely zero.
Porters flying Skeds.
Oh no, it would be so loud and so cold in the winter. But I just like them. They're such a cool aircraft. They were made in a time when like bush flying was the way to do it, and we bush fly the heck out of it.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the coolest planes. Just visually, it's so sweet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the most unique.
Yeah, exactly. And like it was designed in like 59, I believe. And it's just like it wasn't designed with that huge PT6 on the front originally. That's been like mods on mods on mods, and finally it's gotten to the point where it's at now. But it's insane. Like it's like putting a 5-liter supercharged engine in the front end of like a Mini Cooper. Like it's just crazy. It's absurd, cool. But it's so fun. It's such a cool aircraft.
What are some like tips and tricks that people might not think of an engineer? Like you showed me the like 3D printing of like the center holes today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like weird stuff like that. Like what are some weird things that you found very helpful in your career that aren't talked about or like thought of very much?
Like for tooling,
techniques, whatever. Like this might be a really weirdly specific question, but I'm kind of interested to hear what you have to say about it, because it might be helpful for people.
Being able to look at something through a mirror and then work at it in reverse is one of the things that I was like not prepared for. And I've had to become adept at.
If you're young AME, practice flossing more.
Flossing will help you out. Use a dental pick and like really get in there. And
that's funny.
Like, we there's kind of a long-standing joke in aviation that design engineers have a saying like up on the wall, and it's like, if you can see it, you can't touch it, and if you can touch it, you sure as hell can't feel it. So if you can see it, there's no way you can actually reach it, and if you can feel it, there's no way you can actually see it.
Interesting.
So it's a lot of mirrors, it's a lot of borescopes.
So anything that you can feel and see doesn't count. Like at the same time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's easy. That's easy mode. Yeah, exactly. It's like every once in a while you'll be like working, you'll have the borescope like in and around the backside of something, and you'll be working with the screen here with your hands like way down deep in something, and you're looking at the screen and you're working over here.
You're just straight up doing surgery.
Yeah, it's like laparoscopic surgery. Exactly. Whoa. Yeah, it's sometimes. That's not very often, but I mean, be prepared. No,
there's certain screws here and there that are that deep or whatever.
Yeah, there's certain things that it's like, how do you get at this? It's like, oh, that's the fun part. You don't.
Man, is there a particular plane that's like the worst for that, or?
I wouldn't say like a whole plane, but like the
certain parts of planes.
Yeah, like the engine control quadrant, where your like power levers and your prop control and your fuel selection is on the 1900. The access to that is like 2 panels. And the access is okay, but there's just like a pit beneath it. And it's like, it's the abyss. There's nothing. There's no access there. I drop something. Lots of times we'll tie our tools to our wrists working there, because like you are going to drop something. I think everyone who's worked on the 1900 has dropped something in there. And you spend 45 minutes to 2 hours with the borescope and a magnet and a string getting it out of there, because there's no way you're leaving it there.
Totally.
But like, I've spent an hour looking for a wrench that's only like 3 inches long.
What I feel like there's so much to your job and your career that people just don't understand. Like there's so much to it about getting into weird places, or just rigors in terms of how to care for aircraft and the standards that you have to meet. And
well, yeah, I'd agree with you, because aircraft maintenance is some days you're an HVAC engineer, some days you're a fluid dynamic pro, some days you're a wheel and tire specialist. Like the aircraft maintenance is like a bunch of the trades all mixed together and then put into one flying machine.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, no, like that is, you're doing the job of a plumber, but now it has to fly. Or you're doing the job of a regulator automotive mechanic, but you can't pull over.
So you're a little unique in that you work on both planes and helicopters.
Yeah, so like I got my start in airplanes and fixed wing, and then I was like, oh, like I'm ready for a little bit of an adventure. And I got a job at a helicopter company, and I went a bunch of cool places, saw some really cool stuff, and it was super fun, and I really liked it. And then this opportunity up here in Norman Wells came up, and I was like, who could turn down going to the Arctic Circle? So this chapter's over. I'm taking a job down in the Caribbean, working on helicopters again.
Flip-flop.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'll have to wear closed-toed shoes, but my flip-flops won't be far behind.
And in the kind of like mindset in terms of working on planes and helicopters? Is there a big difference?
It depends on who you ask. I personally don't think so. Safety's paramount, number one. Making sure the aircraft is like fit for flight, and then just how it's being operated. It's like up here, we're moving people nonstop. We're moving from destination to destination. The helicopter job I had before that was very utility based, and we were focused on, we were like a pickup truck. We were moving supplies. We were moving specialized equipment. We were using the aircraft instead of necessarily moving people with the aircraft.
Yeah.
So like this new job that I've taken, it's a tour company, and we're going to be moving people nonstop. It's not like we're going to be loading caribou or fuel drums.
Unless something weird, really weird happened.
Yeah. If we're moving caribous in the Caribbean, something's definitely happened.
You're like, guys, no problem. I got you.
I actually have seen one of those before. Yeah, like I'm your guy, I guess.
Nice. Tell me about working on planes out at the float base. I know that's a different thing than working in the hangar.
Oh man, float base. Working on the float base is like the best.
That's what sold you about coming up here. Right?
That's absolutely what sold me about coming up here. I had this like whole dream laid out in my head. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a great day. It's gonna be sunny, light breeze, and it's just gonna be a good day. We're gonna be out there working. We'll have the tunes going. Everyone will be having a good time. And then like that summer, I got here in the spring. That summer, hey, we're going out to work on the Porter. We're doing 100-hour. There's like 4 of us. We had the tunes going. It was sunny, light breeze. It was great. It was so fun. But like working out of the float base does come with some complications, but having worked in heli and like having worked as a remote as a remote AME, I was pretty attuned to it. So you have a very limited amount of stuff that you have. Excuse me. And you don't necessarily have the full might of the hangar behind you. You have all the stuff that you've brought with you. So you have to make the tools that you brought work in a way that you might not have to if you were equipped for it in the hangar. But yeah, working at the float base it's great. You're outside. It's nice out. You get to see the other planes come and go, which is pretty cool. And there's just something kind of cool about working over the water. And I mean, you are going to drop something. It's inevitable, and everyone will razz you about it, I promise.
And can you retrieve the things that you drop, or are they gone forever?
You can try, and I've seen people both succeed and fail at it. I'm sure that there's more wrenches in there than people would like.
What's the most amount of tools that someone's dropped in a single day that you've experienced? Like 3, 4?
I think I've seen someone drop 3 tools in a day. And to his defense, he got, I think, all 3 of them back.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
It helped that one of them was bright orange.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've clearly, being in aviation, spent a lot of time on planes and helicopters. Do you prefer flying in one or the other? Careful what you say here.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to go like thousands of kilometers at once in a helicopter just because they're a lot slower. But being able to like stop and take in your surroundings in a helicopter is pretty cool. Or when we were doing forestry stuff, being able to like look out the window and like see this tiny pocket of the like clearing in the trees and like be able to punch it into that land, go out, do something, get back in, and just like lift off again is super cool. But then like we took the Porter on floats out to Kelly Lake, which is like just north of Norman Wells, and it was incredible. We took off in like 200-300 feet and landed in the same, and we like came into this cool island. Like it was great. It was super cool. I don't think we'd have had the clearance to do it on the helicopter.
I was just gonna ask you once you kind of start talking about Kelly Lake, is like what are some of your Satu highlights like of your time up here? Like what really has stuck with you, and what will you cherish?
Okay, so I think the highlights for my time at North-Wright have to be Kelly Lake. My wife came up on solstice. We went up to Kelly Lake with my boss Jess, Kurt, her spouse, my wife, and then our apprentice Pram. And we went out in the Porter, and then the Porter ended up getting a charter or something came up, and they ended up sending the Twin Otter to pick us up. And the pilot that came out, he brought his whole family, a couple of extra guys, and we had a barbecue on the beach, and it was so much fun. We flew back. You came out.
I did come out.
Yeah, you came out. You took some wicked pictures. On the flight back, we saw a herd of muskox on the top of the mountain. Simon did a super awesome flyby on them. Everyone got to see it. It was incredible. And then we got to land. So I got to fly in both of our float planes, which I didn't think was going to happen. So yeah, Kelly Lake is like number one absolute highlight. Brisket Fest, that was super fun because that was a chance for me to meet a lot of the people in the community, because not that I don't see them, it's just that I work 6 days a week and my only day off was Wednesdays, and there's not a lot happening on Wednesdays.
What day is it today?
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say there's not a lot happening. Wing night happens on Wednesdays, but I usually hang out with you guys.
Well, you work the next day too.
Yeah, so it's not like I'm going to go out. So yeah, Kelly Lake, Brisket Fest, softball tournaments up here are crazy. Everyone takes it extremely seriously. I was on the team for 1 year. I barely played because I come and go and realized that I wasn't quite at the level needed to be a benefit to the Screaming Geese, but that's fun. There's volleyball in the summertime. Ridge Fest is a cool thing. It's in like the next valley north of here. Everyone gets on a quad, walks a dirt bike. If you don't have a bike and don't want to walk, usually people will take you out, and then there's a full live band. It's incredible. There was a pig roast one year that I went. It was a riot. There was so much fun, and like the rolling joke on it was like, we're not going to stop partying until the sun goes down, but the sun doesn't set
in September.
The sun won't set for another month and a half. The party does end sooner than that, I believe, but I definitely didn't stay till the end. I had to work, but that's so fun. And it's like everyone in the community goes out there, and it's just awesome.
You see people from all over.
Yeah, you meet people from all over. You meet people from town. You meet people that have been brought in just to visit, and yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, Kelly Lake, Brisket Fest, softball, volleyball, and Ridge Fest. Oh, and I did Christmas up here this year.
Oh yeah,
and that was super fun. I got on a snowmobile for the first time. I borrowed a friend's sled. It's a wild time. It's super fun. If you've ever ridden a quad, it's not like that.
For frame of reference, it's nothing like this.
Yeah. It's.
Is that the first time you? No.
Yeah, no, first time I've ever ridden a sled.
You've never ridden a sled before that?
No.
What?
No, okay, I shouldn't say that. I had like a 1980s Arctic Cat Kitty Cat as like a little kid.
Okay.
But first time riding it with any substance behind it.
Yeah. Some seriousness behind what you guys are doing. You guys go up to the mountain?
Yeah, we went up to the tent frame on Christmas Day, and like we got up. I went over for breakfast at a friend's house, and then we got on the sleds and we rode up the mountain, and it was so fun. And we had a little cookout up top. It was great. It was so fun. The views from the mountain are incredible. You don't realize how high it is looking at it from here, because we're only like 280 feet, I think. But the mountain, I think it's like 2,200 feet.
I'm not sure. It's something like that. It's significant.
It's definitely...
Even just getting up to Jackfish, it's like, whoa, you're a lot higher than you expect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool. The land... Oh, and we went out on the river last year too. I went for a riverboat ride, and we went we went upstream, or upriver. And yeah, it's...
So you've basically done it all here.
Well,
is that you're leaving because you just checked off your bucket list? And...
checked off I was sent a list of things I had to do before I was allowed to leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
I think you didn't own a car in town. I think you need the,
No, I had a car in town, but I did not own one. No, I had a North-Wright go-kart, and
treated you well.
Yeah, it was a great vehicle.
So, all chapters come to an end, and you're headed out to Antigua and Barbados, of all places, and gonna go work on helicopters and live by the beach and whatnot. We can talk about that in a second, but for folks thinking about coming up here to do what you do, rotational, or even just moving up, what do you like? Do you recommend it? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you think people should do that? Do you think it's worthwhile? Do you think it's a good career choice? Give us your feelings.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you wanted to come up here as an apprentice, as a fully licensed engineer doing rotation, if you want to come here as a pilot, I think this is such a good opportunity to get your feet wet in aviation, or even not in aviation. Like, if you wanted to come up here, if there was a job opportunity in Norman Wells, and instead of remote community, don't gloss over it. Like, you could meet some super cool people, you could do some incredible things, and just because it's a little bit out of the way doesn't mean that it's not going to be an absolutely superb experience. Like, I don't know, I've had a great time in Norman Wells, and I'm sure that everyone that comes out of here moving on to other things will say the same thing.
Had you worked in northern places before here?
No, not quite. I'd worked in some fairly remote places, but it was very, very much like job dependent. Like, we would send a machine to Snow Lake.
Isolated is different than remote. Like you're very far away from lots of things up here, but you have everything you need up here.
Yeah.
Right? There's a big difference, like, in terms of being out in the bush and then being in a small community.
Yeah, like, because the job that I had before this, I worked out of a service truck, and I drove that truck from Alaska to Nebraska. Like, and that was my whole base. That's all I had for support.
And how did the experience of living up here compare to the expectation?
I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it because I'd spent the last 2.5 years on the road. It was great. I have a room up here in North-Wright housing, and I've got 2 roommates that are dynamite. And then this was my base. I didn't have to pack all my stuff up every time. I just left it in my dresser, and it was great. So I have a home in Calgary, and then I have the house up here, and all my stuff was where I left it. It's nice when you're off shift, you go back to your house and you're there. You're at your own little slice of home. So, like, that was very nice, actually. It was that's actually a really good way of putting it. It's remote, but it's not isolated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it is far away, but everything you need is close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the parties.
Especially the parties. Yeah. Yeah. And there's golf.
There is golf.
That's like, and there's a golf simulator at the Big Bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I've never seen it on.
I've never played it.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Tell me about some of your other hobbies.
Well, I like to ride and repair motorcycles. I have a 2014 Yamaha that it's super fun, and then I've got a 69 Honda CB350.
Are these all coming with you to Antigua, or is this
No, this is a shameless plug. If anyone wants to buy like a super well-loved Yamaha, I do have one for sale. But no, they're not coming with me, but I like to ride and fix motorcycles. You got me into photography. Well, I liked photography, but Josh really like hit that home and was like, here, you should buy a camera. Here, you should like
spend all this money.
You should learn to edit. You should do this. And I was like, okay. And it's been great because I can take that with me everywhere I go. And like, we travel a fair amount we travel for work, my wife and I.
Yeah. So if you're selling a car in Norman Wells before Sunday, this podcast won't even be out yet, so you're shit out of luck. But definitely get Tyson to take pictures of it.
Yeah. I'll gladly take your car photos. That's one thing that I seem to have created a niche for in my own life.
Oh yeah, you're very, very good at that. And
thanks.
I think it's so cool that you dove in as much as you did. And I'm excited to see what you do with it when moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, man. And then I like to 3D print and design stuff as well. It's I don't know. I've always had a kind of a technical mind, so I might also be just a little bit cheap and be like, oh, I can make this way better than that. Like, these.
Oh yeah, there's components here.
Yeah. I didn't even design these. I just ripped them from the internet, but we printed them.
We did, and they work perfectly.
Yeah, they're holding the mics right now.
They are.
Yeah.
So tell me more about Antigua and Barbados and kind of your vision for it, and it'd be interesting to kind of hear an update from you at some point. And
okay, yeah.
Maybe folks would like to follow up, and maybe we could do an online thing, or maybe when you come back to the Sawtooth at some point, we could do an episode 2 with Tyson. But what are the plans?
Okay, so the plan as it lays right now is it's the 27th of March. I'm done up here on the 31st. I'm flying out on the 31st. I'm going to be in Calgary for about a month. And then on the 1st, I'm flying to St. John, Antigua, and Barbuda. And then I'm going to start working for an aircraft company down there, looking after a couple helicopters. I'm going to be working 4 days on, 4 days off. My wife is coming down for the initial part of it. And then she's going to go back. She's going to maintain her job in Calgary. until about September, and then she's going to be on a leave of absence, and she's going to come down for the next 6 months, and then we're going to kind of go from there. It's yeah.
And you're in company housing there for 3 months, was it?
Yeah, we're in company housing for 3 months, and then we're going to find a place to rent.
And then
there's a possibility.
these are pipe dreams. These are pipe dreams.
The pipe dreams.
Pipe dreams can come true, but
it's true. I would love to build a container home.
Yeah.
I think it would be absolutely super cool. I don't even know what draws me to it. It's not like a steadfast environmental thing by any means, but it is pretty cool.
I feel like it's the technical mind in you and the resources that are available, and it's probably more. You're probably just more interested in it as opposed to like framing something.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested in it just because I've seen it, and I'm like, I could do that. I'd
give me a crane.
Yeah, like let's do it. Let's bring it on. Let's do it. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could end up in a container house, which would be pretty wicked.
Yeah, and you guys do a fair amount of traveling, or did a fair amount of traveling, and I assume that this kind of lifestyle change would be a little bit of a bigger lifestyle change than what you have up here, a massive lifestyle change to what you have up here, obviously. But in terms of time off and whatnot.
Excuse me. Yeah, so I'll get the same amount of days off, just at a different interval. So I'm still only working 50% of the year, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, I'll only have 4 days off at a time. But given where Antigua is located in the West Indies, there's so many places that we can move, or so many places that we can go and visit and explore that are right next door, only like 90 to 300 miles away, that are completely different countries, which is pretty insane.
So it'd be easy enough to get on what would you be getting on Twin Otters there?
No, we're getting on, it'd probably be getting on Islanders. Which, and North-Wright used to have an Islander.
Amazing.
Yeah, so who knows? We could get onto an old North-Wright plane.
Oh, that would be pretty epic.
That would be pretty wild, actually.
You're gonna have to text us back all of the registration codes.
Yeah,
so
I will. I'll just keep every single one that I see. I'll just like send and just like wait for a reply.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wicked. Huh.
Yeah.
Wild. Such a big change. It's so it's cool. I kind of wanted to ask you like about yeah, I don't know, like do you have advice in terms of your mindset working in this domain and how people can like carry themselves and to like be successful? What is your I think I asked that question fine. What is your advice for young apprentices or engineers who moving forward and kind of like what do you hold at the top of your value hierarchy that makes you good at what you do?
Well, it has to be safety. Like paramount to everything else in every single thing that we do to the aircraft is safety. It can look shitty. It can be ratty as long as it's safe. Like safety is the number one thing. If it comes down to a frayed flight control or a frayed seat, like very clearly you're working on the flight controls. Don't get me wrong, like we want to look after the seats as well. We want to do everything, but like safety is the paramount. Safety has to be everyone's absolute first priority. Thank you. Yeah. But like second to that is being diligent and trying to see the whole picture, not just being focused in on the one thing on the task, on the check sheet that says, look at this specific thing. When you're in there looking at that specific thing, just take a second and take a little bit of a step back and look at things and go, is everything around this as good as the part that I'm just looking at here?
Are you talking about diagnosing problems and things like that and making sure that like a component is safe, but it wasn't caused by something else that maybe went wrong? Or
yeah, but like lots of times we'll do like a visual inspection under the floor, let's say, and it's telling you to look at component X, and then you pull up the floorboards, and then you have a bunch of other components around it as well. You're not just going to like put on your blinders and just look at the one component. When you're in there, you're looking at that component, you're doing the detailed inspection that it's asking for. But before you close that up, have a look at all the other things around it. Is there fluid leaking? Is there like loose wires? Is there a broken wire? Is there anything that you have to take pause and look at and be like, is that right? Like just look at the big picture of the whole aircraft, not just the one thing that it's asking you to look at.
And in your career across all the companies you worked at, like, have you found there be a tension in terms of like urgency to get things done, conflicting with safety stuff? Not that anyone wants a plane to be unsafe, but I understand that there are other pressures that for people in terms of, quotas or whatnot.
Yeah.
And like, how do you navigate that?
That definitely comes with more experience you have in industry, but at the end of the day, the plane doesn't fly unless it's safe. And I do like to remind the guys on the floor that take all the time you need. It's not going anywhere until it's safe. It's not going anywhere until we're done. Like if it's done right, it's on time. There's no way around that. We're not pushing something out the door to make a flight because we're overlooking something. Like that's not the right way to operate. And I feel as though every operator I've worked for has definitely had that mentality that we're gonna be late. Like come on guys, and it's like, yeah, okay, like it will be done, but we'll let you know.
And that's not necessarily like I don't know, say there's some form of management that's asking you to do that. That's like justifiable to ask, but then the onus is on the engineers to go, yeah, okay, but it'll be ready when it's ready.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that one instance that I just gave, that's not the case always. And that's very seldomly the case. And usually when they go, hey, when's that going to be ready? And you tell them, they have to take you at your word, and they'll work around it. Like I definitely remind our junior apprentices that they're not responsible for the time crunch. I'm only asking them to look at the aircraft. I'm only asking them to do the job that I've handed them. I'm not asking them to manage the time associated with that. It'll get done when it gets done right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I think there's so much responsibility in it, and there's not really another way to do it, I don't think, systems wise. And I think it requires a lot of integrity to be able to do it at the pace that it needs to be done. Because it's easy to get caught up in, I don't know, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle.
Oh yeah, and it would be very easy to just be like, all right, yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
your name is the one on the paper.
Yeah, right. Like it theoretically, you could be like, yeah, no, we're good to go.
Tell me about that transition from apprentice to. I don't think we actually covered this, but the transition from apprentice to engineer and the, because I assume you've observed people in your career go through that transition and and you yourself. But
I've done it myself.
Describe that.
So I was working at a flight school, and we were seeing the same aircraft over and over and over again. And I'd worked on all of these aircraft from like the day I started out of school. And I was working on it one week as an apprentice, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. I can't wait to get my license. Like, this is going to be awesome. Going to get that big pay raise. And I got my license, and I was working, and it was time to sign out the aircraft. And I was like, oh man, okay, here we go. And like the pen feels heavier in your hand. Like, holy cow. Like, and not that it wasn't looked over, but it's like, okay, you sit down, you've got all the paperwork in front of you, and you're reading through it all. You're like, okay, what did we do? Whereas before, as an apprentice or as even an engineer not signing out the aircraft, you're like, oh yeah, like I did this, we're good. You're writing up your story. When it comes time to do the sign out for it, you're reading through it, and now you're signing off the work of your colleagues and the apprentices working under you. And you're like, okay, yeah, I watched him do that. I saw her do that. I watched this. Oh, they did that. No, I remember that. We covered that. And then you get to the bottom where you're signing it out as airworthy, and you're like, this pen now has a lot more weight to it. You are now saying that entire aircraft, all of the work done in the steps above, has been carried out, and the aircraft is fit for flight. And I don't know, it's hard to describe, but like you saying that, especially for the first time, was like, it's a very real, very, very real thing. And when you put ink to paper, you've now sealed that as safe.
It's funny that I feel like the significance that writing things down carries, even though it, like, you know, it's a construct or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's something that you can go look back on and reference, and there's a whole lot of meaning behind that.
Yeah.
And
It's one of those things, because like when you do the maintenance on your car, when you change the oil on your car, you're just like, yep. Like,
worst that happens, you seize your own engine.
yeah. Worst case, you can pull over.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't pull over in the plane.
I can imagine that if you're like working in an environment where you need to be working at such high standards and have such high like rigors about how you go about things, could have one of two effects. One of them could be in your personal life, it's like you couldn't be bothered and it doesn't matter, it only affects me, right? Or it could go the other way where you're like, I'm going to do my dishes militarily because that's what I'm used to.
So I think it's both. I think they're like, I think I have lots of bleed over, especially with like 3D printing.
Sure.
Like, I really like these. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
for everyone watching,
yeah, sorry.
The mic holders, we had a technical issue and Tyson solved it.
But like, I like them, and I printed them from like 2,200 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And if I was at home, if I had the 3D printer up here, I would like radius this better, and I would fix this so that way it wouldn't look choppy around. And it's
pretty good for remote printing.
Super good for remote printing. It's super good for just like a hit print, don't change anything. But like, so like stuff like that, I have a very high standard for, because it's something that I can control. It's something within my realm. But like,
and do you think that tendency and attention to detail led you to becoming an AME, or do you think it was something that you honed over time, and then do you know what I mean? Like, was it?
I think the two
was
of
it
them,
foundational, or was it a consequence?
I think the two of them grew together. I think I had a high attention to detail so a little bit more background. I grew up in a heavy duty shop. My dad's a heavy duty mechanic. I grew up in like the children's PV Mart coveralls since a very young age. I had a broken wrist one winter, and with a broken wrist, I wasn't able to work under the truck. So he had me change the clutch plates from inside the truck because it was a little bit cleaner and I could wear the cast, no problem. But I think the attention to detail was there. And then as I progressed more technically in my trade and just mechanically, the attention to detail grew, because you're able to start seeing the larger scope of things, or start seeing the more minute details.
What other qualities do you find? Well, I'm not sure if it's obvious if they were inherent to you previous to your work. I don't know. Sometimes it's not super obvious to be like, oh, like this quality of mine came from my work, but how much of it was like natural previous to my career or whatnot. Like for me, like working with people and the like, you know, my charisma or my ability to connect with people, I probably had some of that, or not even some of it. I probably had a fair amount of that growing up as a kid. But then the other thing is I just worked with people a whole lot, working with kids and specifically focusing on connecting with them. So I honed that as well. So, and I would say that probably at this point, more is of the training and the practice than my natural ability. But I think it was built upon a good foundation of ability to connect with people.
So it's interesting that you talk about your ability to work with kids. Like, so I grew up in my dad's shop, and all of my dad's friends and clients were his age. And then I had to work with guys that are usually a fair amount older than me. And aviation is definitely an older age thing.
Than summer camp?
Than summer camp. Yeah.
I'd hope so.
So like when I was an apprentice, I was the youngest person there by like almost 15 years. But you had to approach it not necessarily as equals, but not as a child. You had to not age yourself up, but work at a more mature level, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely had to present yourself more maturely than you would joking around with your friends and colleagues that are the same age. Mm-hmm. So I think that led into me being more focused on holding myself to a higher professional standard, was aging myself up, so to speak.
And it served you well.
I think so.
Yeah, in your time. Do you have anything you're nervous about in terms of your upcoming move and this big transition? It could be professionally or personally.
No, everything's going to go great. I'm not worried about a single thing.
You're a liar. I think you're mostly worried about selling your bike, having it go to the right person.
No, it's just a material thing.
Yeah.
My truck, on the other hand, I'm like, not selling. I don't know yet. I don't even want to talk about it.
I won't push the issue.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a possibility I move to this island nation of Antigua and absolutely hate it.
I guess so. I guess there can be as many beaches and warm weather as you want, but if the dynamics aren't good and if the work environment's not good and whatnot, it might suck.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I personally don't dwell on the negative possibilities. I like to look at the positive ones and then face the more negative ones as they come, and usually try to work towards a more positive goal or work towards a more positive outcome from a negative problem. I don't know.
How do you think that applies in your professional context? Like I'm sure you've encountered like pessimist AMEs and optimist AMEs. Like, how does that manifest?
Oh yeah, that's super true. Like you'll have a machine come in and you'll have two different people diagnose it on two separate different days. And like the first guy will be like, "Oh man, this thing's down for like 3 weeks. It's going to be terrible. Like I bet you we don't even have parts. Like this is going to be bad. If this part's broken, like we're done. We're missing. Oh, it's going to be terrible." And then a different guy will come in same day. They'd be like, "Oh man, this is going to be easy. Like, I bet you it's going to be this." And this is all pre-diagnosis. This is just like snag written up in the logbook, and they're both reading the same thing. And yeah, one guy, the sky will be falling. Everything's doom and gloom. The other guy will be like, "Oh no, we'll get this out. We'll get this out before coffee break. Like, it's going to be great."
And in your experiences, well, I feel like you're probably one of the optimists in the room, but well, you're kind of like a realist. But yeah, where do you fall on that spectrum?
I think I definitely fall more on the positive side, but
between this is going to go well and it's going to take 3 weeks, or you're like, yeah, it'll be 10 days.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm like, if we have parts, no problem.
Yeah. Fair enough.
If we have parts.
And it's usually the truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah. I mean, like, no one bats 100.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. I love, I've spent a lot of time taking pictures of AMEs and North-Wright and things like that, and kind of being in and around that world and living up here and getting to know the Wrights and getting to know the whole team and whatnot. And I think I have such an appreciation now for I just had no context before, like zero, right? And then I have such an appreciation for the whole industry, but also like there's something, sorry, pilots, I love you guys too, but there's something about the mechanics that I find so interesting, and the engineers and I think what it is actually here's my like group dynamics coming out now, but the small group like interacting with each other on a regular basis, working towards a common goal. Like, I think that's what it really attracts.
Oh yeah. Like, and we are a team. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no competition. There is no like we'll defer to someone, obviously, because it does come down to like only one person can do the job sometimes. Like, it's not like we could have all 10 of us do the exact same job the exact same way. But like, there's no competition. It's a very collaborative environment. I mean, we get people that have never even seen the machine. We ask them their opinion on it. We are a team, and that's the most important part. If you're not able to thrive in a team environment, you're not going to thrive usually as an aircraft mechanic, because you have to be able to.
This isn't serious, but what I thought was, if you're not able to thrive in a team environment, be a pilot.
Yeah.
Not serious.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really different endeavor, and it definitely, like, it's just the nature of the thing, but you're so much more focusing on your skill, your time, your, ability to fly the plane.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's kind of what you want.
Yeah. And even the way that a cockpit is set up, there's a hierarchy to it. There's the person on the left side is in control and command. The person on the right side, he is there to help, or he or she is there to help. Like, they are, and the person on the right eventually becomes the person on the left. Whereas in a shop environment, you have apprentices and then you have engineers. And as an apprentice becomes an engineer, they immediately, the day they get their license, they're a teacher. Mm-hmm. They are expected to start helping the apprentices. And even senior apprentices are helping the other apprentices. Like, you're learning and teaching as soon as you get there, and it's a collaborative environment all the time. Because like to hoard all that knowledge would be like genuinely unhelpful. Like if I was the only one that knew how to do this and I didn't want to teach anyone how to do that, management would step in and be like, no. Everyone's learning how to do this, because what if you get hit by a bus?
Yeah. So the hoarding of knowledge isn't really a good quality. You want to spread the knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
But do you find that there are people who are like, I don't know, you might find something and be like, oh, like that's this person's specialty, or like they're just better at that kind of a thing, so let's have them do it? Or is it better to kind of like all be a jack of all trades?
So I
like outside of like avionics versus body work, right?
So there are things in our shop that some people are way better at than others, and that's great. And in a time crunch, when they're divvying up tasks and you know that this is coming in and you have a very short window of time to work on it, you definitely put the person that's the most adept at it. But in a time and a place when it's not time sensitive, it's a great opportunity to put the person that's really good at that and then the next person that needs to learn how to do that, working together on it collaboratively. So that way now it's not just that one guy that knows how to do it. It's not just that one person. You now have two people that have a good understanding of it. So yeah, time and a place. Like there are people that are significantly leaps and bounds ahead of all of us at, say, engine rigging. And
what's engine rigging?
That's making sure that the movements applied by the pilot match the movements on the engine.
That's pretty important.
Yeah, it's rather important. Yeah. Yeah, so we like to, in a time crunch, if we have a snag come in the book that says, hey, like engine rigging out of whack, and we only have 6 hours to look at it before the plane has to fly again, yeah, we'll definitely put the person on it that's got the most experience, because they can usually diagnose it quicker, repair it quicker, all of it. But if we get an aircraft in that we're going to have for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like, oh, also the engine rigging's a little weird, or we're changing a throttle control cable, we're like, oh, okay, this is a great learning opportunity for, say, a new engineer, a late stage apprentice, to come in and like really get their hands-on experience with these major complex pieces of aircraft. Yeah.
So grew up in Alberta, grew up in shops working on heavy machinery.
Yeah.
And then when did you decide to become an AME?
I was in, I think, grade 10 in high school, and I was working with my dad one spring, and it was really, really crappy out. And
on heavy machinery?
On heavy machinery, on this big excavator, and the main hydraulic ram for the excavator was leaking, and my dad handed me an 16-pound sledgehammer, and he's like, okay, go pound out that pin. And I'm like wading out through the slush and the muck, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, but I really like the mechanical side of this. Uh-huh. And then I was in school, and they had all of these post-secondary portfolio books out on all the tables in the library, and I was like flipping through it. And so aircraft maintenance engineering technologist is the program that I took at SAIT, the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, and they gave their book out alphabetically. It's third down alphabetically. I'm not ashamed to admit that. It goes academic upgrading, agricultural technician, aircraft maintenance engineering. I was like, aircraft maintenance? What is that?
You didn't even get down to B.
Didn't even leave the first page.
Was there a subnote that says you'll never need to hit the plane with a 16-pound sledgehammer? that was implied. Actually, here's a better question. Do you ever have to hit the plane with a 16-pound sledgehammer?
I don't know, a 16-pound sledgehammer. I've definitely hit a plane with a hammer.
And then worked on fixed wings, branched out to, I'm just kind of summarizing here, but worked on fixed wings, branched out to helicopters, worked in helicopters for a bunch as a remote technician, moved around a lot, decided to come up here, back on fixed wings, hobbies throughout, got into photography, spent the last 2 years up here, and now you're off to the beach.
Off to the beach.
Off to the beach.
Off to the beach. Yeah. Yeah.
Just focusing on the Sawtooth, what are you going to miss the most?
Is it weird to say the river views?
No,
it's pretty cool. When I first came up here, so the Mackenzie River is it's incredible. It's like the second largest drainage basin in North America, I believe. It's impressive. When I first got here, we were flying in, it was still froze over. So that's actually one thing I've missed. Sorry to deviate. I've never seen a breakup.
Oh,
yeah,
that's too bad.
And I'm leaving before breakup this year too.
Yeah, definitely are.
Yeah.
Oh.
But when I got here and I was driving along the river, I didn't fully know that it was the river. I thought it was a lake.
Oh.
Just because it's very, very wide at the town of Norman Wells. And then I also didn't realize that right across, like looking straight out of town, that's an island. That's not the other shore. There's like a whole other part of the river there. So it's incredible. The river is insane. And then once you actually get onto it in the summertime on a boat, it's incredible. So I'll definitely miss the river views, the people. The people, it's gonna be tough. I didn't take this job lightly. I mean, Norman Wells is super fun.
Wicked. Well, we're gonna miss you.
Yeah, and I'll miss you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.